The Just Lead Advancing Racial Equity Conference, hosted by New Detroit, brought together national and local speakers who provided compelling insights into racial equity and justice. Khary Fraiser, Detroit is Different, provides you conversations with some of the phenomenal guests, talking dismantling racism with collaborative solutions.
I'm Bob Riney. I'm President and CEO of Henry Ford Health.
Detroit is Different at the Just Lead Conference 2023. We were here last year, and this year we're talking about racial equity. And when talking about racial equity, we have someone from definitely a hub of what happens in Detroit. Henry Ford Health Systems. Bob Riney, how are you today?
I'm great. Good to be with you.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So on the panel, you spoke to some different things that really touched on some topics that are near and dear to the heart of so much of the Black community, because you talked about infant mortality. That really goes right into the book Medical Apartheid, and a lot of discussions, and really speaking about the health of Black children and Black women, and the work that you're looking to do. How is this embraced from a full lens in understanding, when certain people may say, well, you know, we're going to have health systems for whomever? How do you look to being inclusive and have that racial equity when it is a health issue, but a health issue that is for all people, but specifically is some disparities in the Black community?
Yeah, I think that, like anything, we are a research organization, and the research is clear on this. The research shows that African American women die at a very significant disproportional rate during delivering of babies or immediately thereafter than non-African American women, and infant mortality is also high. And so our job as really officers of health is to figure out, how do we solve for that? It's ultimately a moral imperative. And what we have found, and it took us a while to get there, is it's not just about making sure that we have the best doctors and that we're encouraging people to come in for prenatal care. It's about really understanding, what are the real barriers in their life? What are they facing that is getting in the way of making sure that they are as healthy as they can be, and then prepared for that delivery. And that has very little to do with coming in for an individual clinic visit. That clinic visit is critically important, but it has to do with, are they getting proper nutrition? Are they getting support? Do they have a safe family structure? Do they have the access to healthy foods? Do they have transportation to get to and from? Do they have the support at home for when that baby returns home? Do they have the support of what's going to be needed for them? And so, you really then you tell your team, you can't just focus on making sure that that clinical visit goes well. You've got to make sure that you're helping them support everything in their life that's needed to have a safe delivery. And we have found that doing that is really the path to improvement of this number, because oftentimes if someone is starting off with a poor nutrition or a malnourishment, and the only access to they have to food is a party store 6 blocks down the road, we're not going to be able to help them as much as we should. So we provide food. We will provide all sorts of resources. We'll connect them to community endeavors so that they feel supported and actually feel loved in this process.
And I love that you highlighted that. And when we think about community, that's one of the keys of Detroit is Different: culture and community intersecting. And that just leads to the next question. The societal lens of Americana views neighborhoods like Detroit's traditional communities as under-resourced, and that's in education, that's in economics, and in opportunity. What cultural understanding does an organization like Henry Ford take to learn the education, economics, and opportunities of legacy Black communities like Detroit, like what we value? How does an organization understand that, okay, we sometimes can't necessarily look at this is the right way, but this is the way that exists in this community, and just find that mesh between both?
Yeah, I think that you have to approach this from a lot of different angles, and I will tell you that, we have a lot of conversations. We have a diversity steering council in the organization that I personally chair as CEO, and we meet and we do book clubs and we do tours and we learn visually what has led to the place that we're at today so that people understand it much deeper than what they may have learned in a formal learning environment. We're all, most adult learners are visual learners. We really embrace what we see even more than what we hear, and that combination is really important. So, I'll give you a very practical example. As CEO of this health system, we welcome every year 4 administrative fellows, and these are typically individuals that have finished their master's degree in healthcare and are ready to launch their administrative career. It's a competitive process. People come from all over the country. We certainly, first of all, make sure it's a diverse group, but that's not the point of this story. Because most of the fellows are from out of the area, or even if they're from the area, they really don't understand the history of how we emerged to where we are. I personally take them on a 4-hour car tour as part of their orientation, and I drive to very different neighborhoods within the city, and I show them the really great areas and the really areas that are struggling so bad. And I tell them what specifically happened in history, including federal policy, that lent to what they're seeing and the healthcare imperative that leaves for all of us. They are usually blown away by that. First of all, that I would do that. And secondly, that it was so much of a richer experience than they really understood. And so once you really create an understanding of how we got here, then people are motivated to make a change.
And when you speak to that motivation as we get to an end, where does the motivation for other leaders in that position that could say, like, okay, we're focused on being a business. We want to make sure that the business runs. The American economy itself is under, some different stressors that it hasn't been. It may just make more sense to hire the best available, as opposed to looking at being, finding equity where, like, we're spending more resources. Where does that extra value come to the bottom line when you have that equity that you've seen in Henry Ford?
Well, first of all, there's plenty of data to suggest that when you have a diverse workforce at all levels, you are going to be more profitable if that's your goal, or more successful, because that means that you have direct insights into all customers, not just certain customers. So, for us, it's really clear that our ability to grow and have all communities want to use us for healthcare starts with having workforces that share their experiences, that can relate to them. And so that's just a basic from my perspective. I think beyond that, though, we have to demonstrate that we're going to go above and beyond even when it's uncomfortable to do so. And we're not going to be perfect. We're not going to get it all right, but we're going to be very purposeful about our efforts. And so what I worry about with some of the diversity initiatives that I see in some organizations is they kind of start under a leader and they have steam for about a year or 2 years, and then they go away. And then another leader may come in and say, I want to do it this way, right? We have avoided that because, you want people to do the right thing from the heart, but you also have to back it up. So part of our compensation for leaders is on fulfilling our DEIJ goals and doing the right thing. So I think you have to combine change with, yes, appealing to it's the right thing to do, but also holding people accountable to say, you're going to be rewarded differently depending on whether you achieve this or not.